Good evening, everybody, and welcome to all here, and a big welcome back to you, Venerable Chodron, as our guest and our friend tonight, and for the month of April. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Venerable Chodron, for taking us through another volume in the Library of Wisdom and Compassion series. Looking forward to that. So sharing a bit about you with our audience requires some editing for the sake of time. Certainly an inspirational life beginning from a very young age. So most here already know you as an author and a teacher and founder and abbess of Sravasti Abbey in Washington, the only Tibetan Buddhist training monastery for Western nuns and monks in the U.S., and also that you were ordained as a Tibetan Buddhist nun by one of Khebje Gelek Rinpoche's teachers, Khebje Ling Rinpoche, in Dharamsala in 1977, as well as having studied extensively with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Tensab Serkong Rinpoche and Khebje Zopa Rinpoche. And later, in fact, receiving your full ordination as a bhikshuni in Taiwan in 1986. And being a central figure in the reinstatement of bhikshuni, or in Tibetan Golongma, ordination of women. So with your prison outreach and interfaith dialogue among the efforts where your heart and time have also been invested. And as a worldwide teacher, we appreciate your practical explanations of how to apply Buddhist teachings in daily life. A focus that's been also a cornerstone for us here at Jewel Heart. And then finally, now publishing many books on Buddhist philosophy and meditation, and currently co-authoring with His Holiness the Dalai Lama the multi-volume series of teachings on the Buddhist path with the Library of Wisdom and Compassion. So here we are now, looking forward to this month's 4 talks based on Volume 7. Searching for the Self.
Let's take a couple of minutes and come back to our breath, let the mind settle, and then we'll generate our motivation, and after that go into the talk. So let's generate our motivation. So we're going to, for the next 4 sessions, talk about emptiness and the path to realizing it. Our purpose is to attain full awakening. But attaining full awakening isn't just saying those words, that's what we intend to do. but it involves cultivating the bodhicitta motivation, accumulating the collection of merit by practicing the 6 or the 10 perfections. And then, of course, realizing emptiness, which depends on understanding dependent arising. So right there, we just touched on quite a sequence of dependent arising, showing how understanding that and applying it to the method side of the path helps us to generate the bodhicitta and to really have the proper motivation for studying emptiness. So understanding dependent arising is an important part of the method side of the path and an important part of the wisdom side of the path. So it's good we put this all together and then go forward, collecting merit and wisdom and attaining the Buddha's truth body and form body. So with that kind of motivation, then let's begin. So that motivation really was something that really hit me strong. A lot of dual heart people, you've been watching Geshe Topkela's teachings that he's been giving to the Abbey. And one of the teachings he gave in mid-January, he really talked about how dependent arising, goes not only with the wisdom side of the path, but with the method side of the path. And somehow the way he said it really got to me, because we always hear dependent arising. It's the monarch of reasons for realizing emptiness. And yes, and here it is. It's complete. It's not just to realize emptiness. It's to do the method side of the path, generating bodhicitta, practicing all the different perfections. It's necessary on that side of the path as well. And how it works. Not just seeing all your method activities as empty, that's part of it, but really seeing when you're creating merit and practicing generosity and ethical conduct and all those things, that all those things are practices that are dependent on many, many other factors that are not them. Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up as something to start with, because that's, we're going in that direction. It's just 4 weeks. Here's the book. Yeah, that it was hinted that I'm going to get through. It is 422 pages, so in 4 sessions, that's almost 108 pages each session. Okay. If we get through 8 pages, we'll be doing quite well. Okay. The cover of the book, Searching for Self, the tanka is of Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom, and the tanka is from His Holiness's personal collection. And I saw this on a booklet for a teaching His Holiness was giving in New York some years ago. And somehow that, picture of Manjushri just went wham, And it took me a long time to find out whose it was and how to get it. But eventually, success. So His Holiness starts the book out, actually, first talking about the method side of the path. So I just want to read you a little bit from His Holiness's introduction to the book, because he starts everything out, of course, with the motivation. And so it's important that we have that motivation. So he starts out, whenever I speak with people, I think of myself as a member of their family. Wow. You don't know what kind of family you're joining. Yeah. Although we may be meeting for the first time, in my eyes, you are already a friend. When we share together, I don't think of myself as a Buddhist, a Tibetan, or as the Dalai Lama. I think of us as one human being speaking with another. Yeah. When you really think about that, that's quite profound, especially considering, at least in America now, how strong people are holding on to their identities. Yeah, I am of this religion, this race, this ethnicity, this country of origin, this gender, this everything, I am, and we hold an identity. And here's His Holiness saying, when I meet somebody, I don't think of myself as the Dalai Lama, as a Tibetan, as a Buddhist, as this or that, and just this complete openness, seeing people as a friend. Yeah. And when you look at it, it sounds great, but to actually do that, we have to overcome a lot of our assumptions about other people, and also a lot of our habitual ways of seeing situations and seeing people. Yeah, because dependent on previous conditioning, with His Holiness, he sees people as friends. Other people, depending on their previous conditioning, meet new people and they're suspicious. Are they going to harm me? Can I trust them? Yeah. Some people, that's the way of doing it. Other people, they meet new people and they think, am I going to fit in? How am I going to fit in? Or I want power because I'm great. And how am I going to get the power? So all these different ways of approaching people that so often we're unaware of, that of course all center around the self, I, and that we believe are the true way to see people. Yeah. And with some people, if we don't see them according to the identity that they hold on to very strongly, they get very mad at us. Yeah. It's quite interesting. Yeah. how people get angry. Many of them, they want to be seen as that identity, talked to as that identity. They assume you're going to act one way or another because they have a certain identity and you have a certain identity. And so before you've even met, there's all this conceptualization kind of clouding the field, yeah? And His Holiness just drops all of that and says, you're all friends. That's it. Very simple. But difficult for us to get that to there, because we have to forgive people that, we think have harmed us. We have to get up, be confident in ourselves. Otherwise, we think everybody's going to step on us, on and on and on. Yeah. So, trying to approach people in a different way and see ourselves in a different way, then the relationships with other people will also be different. You getting what I mean? Think a little bit of, how you would approach people if you didn't cling to the identity you cling to. Of course, most of us don't realize we're clinging to an identity. Yeah, we think, I am that, and we never question it. Okay. So then in chapter 1, His Holiness starts out the importance of realizing the ultimate nature, emptiness. Okay. And so why is it important? Well, we all want happiness and not dukkha. Dukkha is the Sanskrit word that's often translated as suffering, but suffering's not a very good translation. It means more unsatisfactory conditions. Yeah, because otherwise, yeah, if you translate dukkha as suffering, then the first truth is, some people phrase it as life is suffering. Okay, all conditioned things are suffering. Then you go, I'm not suffering all the time. What's the Buddha talking about? Yeah, I have a lot of happiness in my life too. So saying that the first truth is suffering and we need to overcome it, well, I'm not so sure. Yeah, I get a stomach ache once in a while, but, my life is going pretty good now. Okay, so that becomes a problem, because if we don't see the disadvantages of cyclic existence, then we don't have any motivation to get out of it. Yeah, we're quite comfy in samsara. We just want to tweak it a little bit. Yeah, make it better. So what is the root cause of our samsara, our cycling in this kind of existence? In our daily life, we seem to think that the root cause of our unhappiness is other people. Yeah, other people, the government, the weather, yeah, the driver who cut me off, somebody who cheated me. That's who we usually think, what we usually think of as the cause of our dukkha. Yeah, so then getting rid of the cause of our dukkha means getting rid of other people, getting rid of the external world, getting rid of the government. I mean, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? What's going to happen if you try and do that? Yeah, well, aside from having an expense-paid vacation in the prison, you're not going to be any happier. Yeah. So the cause is in us. Yeah. So the solution has to be within us. Yeah. If the cause were external, then micromanaging the rest of the world and getting everybody to do what we wanted them to do would actually work and would bring us infinite bliss. Yeah. So when you win an argument and you get the other people to cop to the point that you were right, do you experience everlasting infinite bliss? I don't think so. Yeah. So, maybe we're barking up the wrong tree, trying to control outside when it's inside that has to be dealt with. So when we start to look inside, then we see, oh, my attachment brings problems. But then the other side of us says, no, my attachment makes me happy. When I follow attachment, I can get what I want. And then I'm happy. What's wrong with being attached? Yeah, the Buddha sounds so heartless, like pleasure is evil. You hear people say this, It's a big misunderstanding. Okay. Buddha's not saying something is wrong with pleasure. He says pleasure's fine. What creates the problem is when we grasp at the pleasure, when we're attached to it, when we hold it so firmly. Yeah. And then do all sorts of unkind and unethical things to get the pleasure we want. That's what the problem is. Okay. And the same thing with anger. When we have a fight with somebody and we really slam them and insult them and, tell them how awful they all are and bring up, our mental file of everything they've done wrong for the last 10 years. Yeah. And so, you know how you save all those little things that people have done that you don't like. And then when you have a really big fight, you take it out. And you did this, and you did this, and you did this. Yeah? Okay. So again, if acting out of anger brought us great happiness, then, getting angry would be pleasurable. Anybody here happy when they're angry? No. Yeah. If anger brought pleasure, then one person whose name I won't mention, but who was in New York yesterday, he's very angry and he would be blissed out. If anger brought happiness, he would be the happiest person in the world. Yeah, is he? If he were happy, he wouldn't be so angry. Yeah, and he's making others unhappy and creating the cause for his own dukkha. So when we look at attachment and anger, neither of them work as strategies for gaining happiness. But where do the attachment and anger come from? They don't just pop up out of nowhere. So, as the Buddha taught, and if we investigate, we'll find that the anger rose from ignorance. Okay. So this is not the ignorance that made you flunk your spelling test in second grade. It's not the ignorance that, has the wrong, follows some conspiracy theory, that kind of thing. It's the ignorance that misapprehends how we and other people and all phenomena actually exist. Yeah, so things exist dependently. We apprehend them as if they were independent entities who set themselves up, that didn't depend on anything else. They just are, and they have their very own nature that makes them what they are. Okay. So why is that a problem? Okay. Well, you can see this is kind of going back to our thing about identities, isn't it? Yeah. When we say, what's an identity? I am this race, whatever race you are. Okay, let's take green. Yeah, so we're all the green race. We're all from Mars. We're from Mars, and we're little green people. Okay, what's wrong with saying I'm a little green person? I'm from Mars. Yeah. Well, when we really hold that identity, this is who I am. Yeah. Then if somebody doesn't treat me properly, like I'm the Martian that I am, if somebody criticizes Martians, yeah, or says to me, you don't look like a Martian, your color isn't exactly green, it's a little bit of aqua. Yeah, you aren't a real Martian. Oh, then we get so upset, don't we? Yeah. Or we're invited to a gathering of people, and all the people there are from Venus, and they're, what color of Venus? Pink? They're pink? Really? What? Fuchsia? Oh, okay. Yeah, they're fuchsia. Yeah. Okay. So you go to a party with a lot of people from Venus who are all fuchsia colored, and you go, nobody here looks like me. I don't belong here. They don't understand me. They told me I wasn't a true Martian because I'm aqua. It's because I am green. They just don't see properly. Yeah. Anyway, Martians are better than Venus, Venetians. How about Venusans? That sounds too much like venison. Okay. We're better, we have a more ancient culture. Our language in Mars is much more sophisticated, All those people in Venus, they're so infatuated with their fuchsia. They're just going round and around the sun very, very quickly. Yeah. They should slow down and, do it like us Martians. Then the world would be so much better. Okay? Yeah? It's funny, isn't it? But all you do is substitute Martian for some group here, and green for another color, and the same with Venus, and the same with fuchsia. And boy, you're going to have, some big thing going on. Okay, so this ignorance apprehends things as independent with their own essence. Yeah. But in fact, all these things and all these people are dependent. Yeah. So if we think about people being dependent, and you go, well, how am I dependent? I'm over 18. I'm no longer dependent anymore. No, we're not talking about that kind of dependence. Okay? Yeah. We're talking about, for example, that we exist only because the causes of us exist. Yeah. In other words, we're completely dependent on being produced by causes and conditions. Now, when you're sitting here listening to the talk, is your self-image, oh, I'm dependent on causes and conditions. I only exist because certain causes came together and certain conditions facilitated that? Is that how you think of yourself existing? No. No, we're dependent like that. But that's not how we think of ourselves as existing. Yeah, we think of ourselves as this big, concrete, not literal concrete. Yeah, this big, concrete person. I am me. I don't depend on anything. I am me. I make up my own mind. I'm the boss of my own life. And I want to be the boss of your life too. Yeah. In fact, I want to boss the whole country around. Yeah. But nobody bosses me around because I am not dependent on anybody else. Yeah. I just am. Yeah. Do you ever think of yourself as being a baby? Yeah. Is it funny when you look in the old family pictures and there's a picture of you, in diapers? Do you identify with that kid? When you look at that kid, the face, does that look like the one you see in the mirror today? Yeah. Oh, if it did, we're in big trouble, huh? Yeah. A baby that looks like this. Whoa! That baby aged really fast. Okay. But, thinking of ourselves as a baby, when we think of ourselves as a baby, we're already out of the womb. We're in some baby clothes. Somebody's holding us and going coochie coo. Okay. But you know what newborn babies look like? You've seen pictures of newborn babies. Yeah. They aren't gorgeous, are they? Yeah. They're covered in blood. They're all wrinkled. They look like like what? Grandma? What? Gremlins. Oh. What planet do gremlins? Are they from Mars too? Do you ever think of yourself looking like that? Eyes closed, you have blood all over. Yeah, you can't stretch your legs out. You haven't opened your eyes. Yeah. You're just sitting there waiting for somebody to come along, hold you upside down and whack you on the bottom. And now that means you're born. And that's the first thing they do when you come out of the womb, is whack you on the bottom to clear the stuff out of your lungs so you can breathe. Okay. We don't identify much with that, with, looking like that, do we? Do you? Yeah. Yeah. They whacked me for no reason. I'm going to take this to court. Okay. So it's this whole way we see ourselves, you know. If we see ourselves as not dependent on causes and conditions, then, you know, our idea of ourselves becomes very reified. There's no wiggle room. Yeah, it's hard to change our mind on anything because the idea I am, fill in the blank, is so strong, we feel, well, that's exactly who I am. Okay? And then, of course, we treat other people like as if they exist that way. And then all the objects of our attachment and hatred, we see them as concrete things. We don't think of them as dependent arising. Yeah. Money? Oh, money should just come. Yeah. If it grows on trees, then maybe it's a dependent arising. We don't even get to the point of thinking of it as growing on trees. We think it just, you know, here. And this green stuff that they call money in America, yeah, that has real value. Those pieces of paper, those pieces of green paper are, white paper with green ink, yeah, are so valuable. I want a lot of pieces of white paper with green ink, because if I can get a lot of them, it means I am successful in life. It means I'm a good person. It means I'm valuable. It means now my parents are going to approve of me. Yeah. It's only paper with green ink. All the rest that we see in those pieces of paper are not there. It comes totally because we are imputing it, projecting it, giving it value that by itself it just doesn't have. Yeah. Does it? Yeah. If when you're sick, if somebody brought you a stack of white paper with green ink this tall, are you going to feel better? Yeah? Oh, well, you're the one that dreamt we're going to receive a $7 million donation for the Buddha Hall. So, of course, you would think like this. But, you know, think of how we impute, and then we think things actually are what we impute them to be. So first we hold them as being independent of causes and conditions, and then not seeing that what we're doing is a cause and a condition, we impute some permanent identity on them. Okay, so this creates a lot of problems. Yeah. So that's, overcoming that is why we meditate on emptiness, because emptiness is, while our usual ignorant mind apprehends things as inherently existent, wisdom apprehends things as without inherent existence, and then on a conventional level as dependent. Okay, so we're and this is, the empty nature is their true way of existing. But we don't see that. We don't realize that. Yeah. But this is exactly what we have to realize in order to free ourselves from samsara. Because if we're able to overcome the grasping at inherent existence, then the attachment, aversion, jealousy, pride, all these things collapse. Then the negative actions we do motivated by those destructive mental factors, they don't get created. And they get purified. And then, because they're no longer there, then the cause of rebirth is gone. Okay, so that's why realizing emptiness is important. There's a quote in the book here from Arya Deva in his 400. So he says, all afflictions are overcome through overcoming ignorance. When dependent arising is seen, ignorance does not arise. It is the only doorway to peace. This is dependent arising. It destroys wrong views. It captures the attention of all Buddhas. This is called selflessness. So if things exist dependently, then they lack an inherently existent essence. The word self is can be a little bit confusing. It has more than one meaning. One meaning of the word self is the object that of negation. In other words, it's the object that doesn't exist that we think exists. So one meaning of self is inherently existent. So when we talk about self-grasping, what are we grasping at? Not self as in I as a person, but we're grasping at inherent existence. When we say selfless, without the self, it doesn't mean without being there's no person there. It means there's no inherent existence. Okay, so sometimes self, as we know in conventional language, can mean the person, but it also can mean, what we think exists that does not exist. In other words, inherent existence. Okay. And then the King of Concentration Sutra says, if phenomena are individually analyzed as selfless, in other words, as empty of inherent existence, and what has been analyzed, that selflessness, is meditated on, that is the cause for attaining the fruit, nirvana. So if we meditate on phenomena and see that they're empty of inherent existence, and then we see that emptiness and selflessness itself lacks inherent existence, okay, then that's the cause for attaining liberation, nirvana. Through any other cause, one does not go to peace. Peace here means nirvana. So he's really saying, this is the Buddha speaking in the Samadhi Raja Sutra, the King of Concentration Sutra. He's saying that that's how you find peace, how you find ultimate happiness. Okay, now I want to read a little bit what His Holiness said. He said, it is crucial to seek the correct antidote to ignorance. Although a variety of religious practices and philosophies benefit people, not all of them explain the correct view of the nature of reality. Okay, so His Holiness is very strong. There's a multiplicity of religions, and even if they don't have the correct view of the nature of reality, many of them can still benefit other people. Okay, how? They still teach love, compassion, kindness. They encourage people to keep good ethical conduct, to forgive people who have harmed them. And for some people, whatever tenets this other religion has, even though they grasp inherent existence, still, they can, develop good qualities and create peace in their families. Okay, so His Holiness is always very respectful of other religions. Yeah, he doesn't criticize them. But he also says that we don't have to say that we all believe the same thing in order to respect each other and get along. Yeah. He says, we all can help other people, but we don't have to say that we're all going to the same result. We all have the same path or whatever. Yeah. He's one of the few religious leaders I know of that has that view. Most people say, it's my path, the founder of my religion, and that's it. And if you don't believe it, you know where you're going. Okay, Buddhism doesn't say that. Okay, so His Holiness continues. I have been, he just finished saying, not all of those religions explain the correct view of the nature of reality. I have been to more than one Kumbh Mela, which is a Hindu pilgrimage and festival that's held every 12 years at the confluence of the holy rivers, the Ganges, the Yamuna, and a mythical river called Sarasvati. Okay. And it's one of the largest religious gatherings on the planet. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people go. It's just, yeah. So Hindu yogis who live in the Himalayas and meditate on the practice of inner heat, in other words, they do tummo practice. They're not Buddhist, but they practice something that's a practice that's also done in the completion stage of highest yoga tantra. Okay, so many of them meditate on the tummo. From the Buddhist perspective, although these yogis have great faith in their gurus, and they've renounced the pleasures of this life, they're very ascetic, they are not able to cut the root of self-grasping. Yeah. They can't cut the root of the ignorance. Yeah. Similarly, some of my Christian friends weep when they speak of their love of God, but they too aren't able to stop rebirth in samsara because they don't have the view of emptiness. Okay. So he's really emphasizing here, how important it is not just to learn the view of emptiness, not just to know the words and the concepts, but to actually realize it. Yeah, to actually make it something that we don't just understand intellectually, but with our wisdom eye, we can actually see directly. Okay, that takes a lot of work, doesn't it? Yeah. I'm always amazed how in the West people love Tantra. I'm writing book 10 in the Library of Wisdom and Compassion is about Tantra. So the other day I was in the library, I had to look something up. And so I was looking at a particular book about Tantra. And our section on Tantra goes from here all the way down to the floor, this way. Huge, huge. Yeah, I think it might be one of the biggest sections in the library. Yeah. But to actually gain realizations through the practice of Tantra, you have to understand emptiness beforehand. the section on philosophy and gaining a realization of emptiness in our library is much smaller, isn't it? Yeah. Isn't that interesting? People in the West who know nothing about Buddhism go for the highest practice. And so many translations with so many books. And one of the basic elements of being able to practice Tantra successfully is at least an inferential understanding of emptiness. But not nearly as many books are translated about that. I find that quite interesting. Yeah. Emptiness is hard to understand. People think, oh, Tantra, that's easy. I just sit and, visualize some green lady in the sky and say Om Tari Tutari Turi Soha, and then, she's going to come and save me. Are you sure you're a Buddhist if you think like that? If you think one of the deities is going to swoop down and save you, are you a Buddhist? Or are you a non-Buddhist just with your own variety of God? Yeah. And so that's why in the Buddhist scriptures and also in many chapters in this book, we look at the views that other religions and philosophical systems have about the nature of reality. And then we poke holes in them. This is the purpose of debate, to really test and see if certain views are accurate or inaccurate. Yeah, that's why all the debating and everything. But it's so nice, so much nicer. Om Tare, Tutare, Tare, So. Om Tare, Tutare, Tare, So. So, we have to look at what kind of views are actually hidden in our mind that we hold on to. Yeah, it can be very revealing. And since we've all studied with Geshe Topke, we realize, first he was teaching some years ago from Navartika, chapter 2 to the Abbey, and that chapter it goes through so many wrong views of people in India at the time of the different philosophical schools and so on. Yeah. And Geshe taught that, kind of this whole series of wrong views. And now we're doing the Rice Seedling Sutra with him. Yeah. The last teaching is going to be later this week, tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. But again, what's he doing? He's shooting holes in all these wrong views. Yeah. I mean, it's something that he's taken so seriously, because some teachers teach emptiness. They just kind of don't mention the wrong views so much and just go right to prasangika, maybe because they're dealing with Westerners who are not so smart. So they go to the highest school and, we hear it, we believe it without questioning. But, in the monasteries, they really look at all these other beliefs that we have inside, especially if you grew up in a theistic religion. Yeah, that can so easily be lurking inside. Somebody died. Why? God's will. It's an easy explanation. Yeah, God's will. It means I have no idea. Yeah. Just like His Holiness said, when people ask us questions and we don't know the answer, we say, oh, it's karma. It means I don't know. So God's will, karma, yeah, synonyms. I'm joking. Yeah. But we come up with all sorts of theories. So, some people, then it's like God, they think too much Sunday school. I'm not going to believe that. And so then they go down to the New Age, bookstore. And there, so many wonderful ideas. Yeah, there's alternative universes. Yeah. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene came for one. She said that the fires in California were started by Jews in space, space lasers. Yeah, started the fires in California last year. Yeah. So we find those kind of views. We find views like everything, we are all one universal mind. Yeah. We're all chips off the old block. We came out of the one universal mind, we dissolved back into it. Yeah. Or everything is created out of one substance. Yeah. There's one substance that everything emerges out of. We find all these kind of views in the New Age catalog. We also find them in ancient India. They're very similar views that human beings come to because it's so comforting in a way to think that there is an external God who's responsible for everything. Yeah, that means you just believe in God. It also does bring some problems, however. One of our friends is a teacher, and one of the kids in middle school, got killed somehow in a traffic accident or something. And so the parents, what they were telling the other children was this was God's will. God took your friend. And one little boy, very sharp kid, said, if God did that, I don't like God. So saying that it's God's will has this problem too, because you could turn around and say, gee, God's not very kind. Okay. So why do we need to study all these different views and refute them? Because, one reason is because many of them are inside of us, lurking, and they pop up when different things happen in our life. Yeah. One woman once told me that Buddhism is not very comforting when you die. Believing in God is much more comforting. Your loved one is now in God's care. Yeah. For some people, that the emotional appeal of that view is very strong. Yeah. But the problem is, if you start using reasoning and logic, which His Holiness Dalai Lama always encourages us to use, then those kind of views fall apart. They're very hard to sustain. So it's really important in our practice to check and see if we have any of those kind of views hanging around, and then to refute them. Yeah. Because if we can't refute them, and, when push comes to shove, we believe them, then it's going to be difficult to realize emptiness. So in looking for the correct view of how things actually exist, there's two extremes that we have to avoid. One is the extreme of, it has many different names. I use the term absolutism. because what it means is the extreme of grasping inherent existence, saying inherent existence. There's an absolute truth that's independent of everything else. Okay. It's also called the extreme of existence. Yeah. What else is it called? It has several different synonyms. Okay. So that's one extreme where we don't negate enough and we think that there's some inherent existence, something there. The other extreme is nihilism. And that's when you negate too much and you think that you confuse inherent existence with regular conventional existence, so that when you negate inherent existence, you develop the wrong idea that you've negated also conventional existence, and so nothing exists. Okay, so two extremes. One is superimposing things that don't exist, on the nature of reality. The other one is negating things that do exist. Yeah. Because they lack inherent existence, but they do exist on the conventional level. Yeah. And understanding this, they say, is one of the hardest aspects about getting the correct view of emptiness. Yeah. And that's why I think our teachers will teach us, emptiness, everything, and then they always at the end say, but things exist. How do they exist dependently? Yeah. So when we talk about the Buddhist view, which is the view of the middle way, the middle way free from those two extremes of absolutism and nihilism. So the middle way view is not that you take the absolute view and the nihilistic view, add them together, and then divide them in half. Okay, so it's not that nihilism is over here and absolutism is here, and you measure it, cut it in half, and then this is the middle way view. Actually, the middle way view has nothing to do with nihilism and nothing to do with absolutism. It's not halfway between those two. It's something completely different. Okay? So it's hard to figure out what it is. Okay? Okay, then there's a section where His Holiness talks about emptiness, its nature, its purpose, and its meaning. Okay. And in this section, I don't know if we'll get to it today, we may not, he goes into an incredible explanation that totally blew me away about how if you can prove emptiness, you can prove the four truths, and you can prove the existence of the three jewels, and you can prove that enlightenment is possible through using reasoning and logic. Yeah. Okay. So first, emptiness, its nature. The nature of emptiness is the mere negation of grasping inherent existence. So when you negate grasping at inherent existence, what do you perceive? Yeah, the lack of inherent existence. Yeah, the purpose of teaching emptiness is to eliminate that grasping that lies at the root of all afflictions and all of our dukkha. That's the purpose. So it's not just for fun. Yeah. And then the meaning of emptiness is that all phenomena and persons lack inherent existence and exist dependently. Okay. And so then he goes more into this. The nature of emptiness is the absence of an objectified basis for grasping, anything in relation to which we could say, this is the self, this is the person, or this is such and such a phenomena. Okay. So that's an objectified basis, something there that you can look at and say, it is this and nothing else. Martians are little green men, nothing caused them. They are automatically, by nature, little green men. The women got freed from Mars. Okay? Or maybe the women to Venus. Yeah. So, okay. So then, so it's the absence of that kind of objectified basis. So then he quotes Nagarjuna from his commentary on Bodhicitta, which is what he taught in Bodh Gaya in January. And so here Nagarjuna says, the abiding of a mind that has no object is defined as the characteristic of space. Okay, a mind that has no object is a mind that does not grasp any phenomena as having or being an objectified or an inherently existent basis. Okay, so when it says no object, it means no inherently existent object. Lots of times when you read the verses by the ancient sages, they don't put in all the words that you need to understand it. So sometimes you read it, and the mind that has no object. Oh, is that the realization of emptiness? Yeah, you just have a blank mind. There's no object. No, that's not right. That's not what emptiness is. Okay. So they kind of challenge us to try and figure out what they're actually meaning. The abiding of a mind that has no object is defined as the characteristic of space. So they accept that meditation on emptiness is, in fact, a meditation on space. With the lion's roar of emptiness, all false pronouncements are frightened. Wherever such speakers reside, there emptiness lies in wait. Ooh, what is he talking about? Okay, so His Holiness explains. A mind that has no object is a mind that does not grasp any phenomena to have an objectified or inherently existent basis. As long as we believe there is an objectified basis, something that by its own nature is that object, grasping its inherent existence will arise. Okay, that this happens is confirmed by the fact that we so quickly react to people, objects, and events with attraction and rejection, based on believing that they have their own inherent nature, that they exist as self-enclosed, independent things, just as they appear to. And this is what is going on with why the country is so divided right now, is we're giving designations and terms to different people and then thinking that they are that belief. And they will never, ever believe anything else. Yeah. So we're imputing inherent existence on other people. And then, if we like what they believe, we say, rah, rah, they have the right view. Not because we've realized that view, but because they're on our side. If they have a different view, we say, wrong view. Yeah. But again, it's not necessarily because we've actually negated that view. We just kind of, those people are against me. So whatever they want, I will want the opposite. Yeah, this is what's happening, isn't it? Yeah. Thinking people are their views. We certainly aren't our views. Okay. So then he goes on, and he's talking more about the objectified basis and refuting it. Okay, so we just have a few minutes left. Maybe there's some time for questions and maybe answers, either from people online or people here.
If you're online, you're welcome to go to the reactions bar at the bottom of the screen and raise your hand there. If anybody has something they'd like to. There we go. Joshua.
So, yeah, this is just my first time coming to a talk about Buddhism. I got a...
Whoa! You really walked into it, huh?
I got a book from the library on autism and Buddhist practice. So then I was talking to some of my other autistic friends about how to sort of learn and I guess connect with a sangha.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a bit confusing for me, but I appreciate all of the details and everything. And I was just wondering, my question is about emptiness. So it sounded like that was pretty foundational, and I was wondering if that's like a pretty good target for where to start, because it seemed like the other things you were talking about were based on that.
Actually, learning about emptiness is a very advanced teaching. Yeah. Yeah. So
Glad I asked then.
Yeah. It's good you ask. So if you didn't understand everything in the talk, that's totally okay. Yeah. In Buddhism, we hear teachings many times, again and again and again, and we don't understand them the first time. Yeah. And so, the first few times we're just trying to get the words and maybe some rough idea, rough concept. And then as we hear more teachings and we go and reflect on them and we discuss them and we meditate on them, then we begin to have, a bit of a deeper understanding. Yeah. So here, talking about the nature of reality, that's really quite advanced. Yeah. We usually begin with, there's several ways to begin. I usually like to begin with talking about emotions and getting people in touch with, how they create emotional reactions to different things, and how our emotional reactions create karma, karma actions, and then how our actions bring us either happiness or misery. So that's one way to start out. Another way is His Holiness, Dalai Lama, likes this way. He throws you right in at the very beginning to the true truths, conventional truth and ultimate truth. Yeah. And starts talking about that right away. Yeah. And so he would talk a little bit about emptiness, like what we're doing. And then he's very skilled as a teacher. He'll start talking about emptiness and dependent arising, even people are brand new. And then when people are looking sufficiently like they don't understand anything, then he'll talk about love and compassion, which everybody can understand. So he's very skillful that way. Okay, so what we're reading from here is volume 7. You might want to check out volume 1. It's called Approaching the Buddhist Path. Okay, good.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. I already bookmarked it online. I was able to find it during the talk, so thank you very much.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Other questions or comments? Yeah. There's one from somebody here.
It doesn't seem like the text unpacks the rest of that quote from Nagarjuna here, and I was a little bit confused with what comes after the part that was unpacked about the mind that has no object. So they accept that meditation on emptiness is in fact a meditation on space. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure who the they was, if this is something being accepted, refuted. Maybe that's not important, but I was wondering if you could say more about that.
Well, remember, the abiding of a mind that has no object is a mind that's seeing is blank-minded meditation. So it's defined as, so that's the characteristic of space. Space has nothing in it. Blank-minded meditation, you aren't apprehending anything, whereas we want to apprehend emptiness. Okay, does that clear that up? Okay. Mm-hmm.
When you were talking about how often at the end of a teaching on emptiness, teachers, the masters will affirm the view of dependent arising. I was thinking about how when we meditate on emptiness and we kind of just try and focus, like doing the 4-point analysis, and we try and focus on just not being able to find the object. Mm-hmm. But I don't often see an instruction after that to reaffirm dependent arising.
You have or haven't?
Have not.
Oh.
It's more just emphasizing the focusing on not finding the object. But should that be the subsequent step, that we always reaffirm dependent arising after that?
Yeah. Okay. Why, when we're meditating on emptiness, they just emphasize the negation, is because we try and see the absence of inherent existence. That's absolutely what we're trying to get at. Okay? And emptiness is what's called a non-affirming negation. So nothing is being affirmed in the place. You're taking away inherent existence, and you're not affirming anything. You're not even affirming at that point dependent arising. Okay? So because it's so hard to really understand what a non-affirming negative is and apprehend it, that's what they emphasize so much. It's not inherent existence, and trying to help us see what inherent existence is and then negate it. And then if you listen closely, then afterwards they say, yes, inherent existence is the monarch of reasonings to prove emptiness, but dependent arising has many different levels and many different types of dependent arising. So one level, like the dependence on parts, the dependence on causes and conditions, that you use as your reason to negate inherent existence. But we don't completely understand what dependence on term and concept mean until after we've realized emptiness. Okay? So when our teachers, talk about emptiness afterwards, their main part in the whole talk was getting us to realize emptiness. And then, so we don't go to the extreme of negation, they bring up dependent arising. But there, the dependent arising that is so difficult to understand is the dependence on causes, on terms and concepts. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, they say it's very difficult, and you have to actually have, either an inferential or a direct realization of emptiness to understand that level of dependent arising. But if they start off talking about, term and concept, we hear a lot about that, yeah. But if they were trying to get us to realize how things are dependent on terms and concept at the very beginning, then we would be thinking all the time of positive phenomena. We wouldn't be able to identify what the object of negation is. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think related to that, like when I find it really hard, the statement of don't exist inherently, but things exist dependently, because I imagine things as Lego blocks almost in my mind, of like, oh, this thing, you put this other cause, and now it looks like something else, like based on the parts, now it's something else, or it's like a chemistry set. And that's like my mental imagination. And so it's very hard to be like, okay, it doesn't exist inherently, so there's no objective basis anymore, but still it affects each other. So like my mental model is sort of from what is taught in schools, I think, Western schools, of like, oh, like this chemistry set, you mix these things, it causes that.
Yeah.
Or like maybe in like physics or something of like.
Yeah. They say that if you study quantum physics, there's some connection between quantum physics and understanding of emptiness. Yeah. We have two physicists in this room. I don't know, can either of you explain this? Okay, one of them is going to try.
Let's be volume 11.
Huh? Oh, this be volume 11. Well, I would have to go back and study physics, and I don't think so. You can write volume 11. Okay, so we'll close for today. Yeah. If you are following with the book, I was really reading mostly from the first chapter. Yeah. When I was talking about other religions, it was from another chapter that comes later that I hope to get to. But probably won't. It was, where is it? Okay, it's on page 253 it starts. And he's talking about other religions. Because people often ask, can you realize, Buddhahood by following another religion? And I always respond, if that religion teaches the emptiness of inherent existence and explains how to realize that, then yes. Yeah. But if it doesn't have that explanation, if it doesn't say that emptiness is the ultimate nature, then difficult. Yeah, like His Holiness was saying, his, maybe this is what I was looking for, trying to remember before. He told the story of going to see the Black Madonna in Spain, I forget the name of the place. Anybody remember it? Anyway, so it's one very, very holy place in Catholicism. And he went there, and there's several Christian meditators in the mountain, the hills and mountain surrounding there. And so he met one of them and had a very, very good connection with this one particular meditator. Yeah. And several years after that, I happened to go. It's Mount Surat. That's the name of the place. So I went to Mount Surat, and I was walking around, where the meditators were. And I was with a couple of friends, and we found that same meditator. He didn't know we were coming, as far as I knew. But when he opened the door, and what do we see? His altar is in the middle of the room. There's a kata, a picture of the Buddha. Yeah, and it's like very clear that he had been really touched with when he met His Holiness. And so, we thought to talk with him, but he immediately said, let's meditate together. So we sat down and we meditated for some time with him. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe he got some transmission about emptiness in there. Yeah. Okay, so we'll dedicate the merit now.